Welcome back to Public Affairs on Peach. We're talking to David Moody Jr., CEO of Moody Construction. After more than 2 decades, he actually revealed to the world, to all of Georgia and really everyone, that he'd been abused by a male babysitter at a young age. And right now, he's helping a lot of other people who have also been abused. We've been talking about events leading up to that. And let's get into, you were just starting to talk about really that speech that you made that really opened the doors for you.
Yeah, well, actually, the first time I said it to anyone was 1992 to my wife, but I didn't say it publicly 40 years after the event, which was in 2013, I believe it was, 2012 or 13. I think it was 12. And they asked me to be the keynote speaker. I'm like, sure, because I speak all the time. And I started speaking, and you were there. I fell apart. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I started talking about being sexual abuse, and it's like all the emotions just came out of me that I had been holding for over 40 years. And
the room fell apart.
Yeah,
too.
Actually like 45 years. And one of the things I think is important, we always say children are resilient, but we forget they become adults. And the baggage from losing your innocence and your childhood stolen by someone using you for a sexual toy is just unbelievable, especially for men. And in being a heterosexual male, you're scared to say that another man did that to you, so you're all over the place. You know?
I think a big trigger for you may have been in the news at that time was a big case that was going on.
What really finally made me say I got to do something and speak up was the Jerry Sandusky situation. That I would work out in the morning because it was on ESPN every morning. And I got so angry because I went, people knew. And when that coach heard what he heard in that locker room, and he left that boy in there and went home and told his dad, and then they went and told the coach. You know, I don't know all how it went down, but I just said, we got to stop this. We got to let people know the damage is real and it's lifelong. I mean, the other reason I started speaking out, I live with this every day. So I said, well, I'm going to live with it every day anyway, so I might as well do something good. And the feedback and the people who have told me thank you makes it so worth it. But also when I speak at certain things and young boys go and tell somebody after I speak, that's what's happening to them. And one that really made me feel well was we found out after I spoke, a young man went and told someone, and his stepfather was sexually abusing him, and they removed him from the home. And if I hadn't have spoke, that boy wasn't going to say anything. So those are the reasons I speak up, is to help, and I'm not concerned about what people think or care.
Your children are older now, one getting ready to get married. Do you think you were more protective of them?
No, one thing I did really well, I didn't want my problems and fears to become my kids. And I let them go to sleepovers. I was protective, but one of the things that was interesting, I would never let kids stay at my house without my wife being home. And not because I was afraid I was going to do something. I was more afraid if someone ever found out I had been sexually abused, they might say, well, why is there a kid? So I was paranoid. I was a scout leader. Scouting was very important to me because the negative stereotype for victims are horrible. So I was scared to even say anything because I thought people were going to flee from me. So it's the victim is a victim in many ways for years because of the negative stereotype. And then mental health is another thing, panic attacks, post-traumatic stress, a nervous breakdown. You don't even want to admit those things.
What advice then would you have for people who've been abused? Parents don't believe them. What happens next?
This is the advice I tell people all the time. I am not an expert, I'm a survivor, but this is what I recommend. I say, first, they got hotlines in places like the Georgia Center for Child Advocacy. Call and talk to some professionals. Get the help you need, but do it in the time that works for you. But the biggest thing I tell people is you can do some incredible things regardless of what we've been through, because we can't do nothing about what's happened. And I also tell them I refuse to let that abuser still control me by having me live in a negative world. So even though it takes a lot of work, I mean, like, it takes work for me to do this, but I know there's a greater good that's being done, and that's why I speak up today. So I tell people who have been through this or their loved ones, you can survive this, but not only survive, you can thrive and do some incredible things and never ever give up and never give out.
David Moody Jr., thank you so much for sharing with us. Very
Thank you.
important topic. When Public Affairs on Peace returns, an agency that David's been talking about, working with children who have been abused. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.